It's an honor and pleasure to be here today with Professor Saru Jayaraman, who is the co-founder and president of the Restaurant Opportunity Center United, ROC United, and director of the Food Labor Research Center at the University of California, Berkeley. Her most recent book is Forked, A New Standard for American Dining from Oxford University Press. Saru, thanks so much for making time.
Of course.
So just to start, what was the revelatory moment for you when you decided that a big focus in your work was going to be on the plight of tipped workers?
So as you may know, we founded ROC right after 9/11 together with workers from Windows on the World. It was initially a relief center to help families of victims who had lost their lives at the restaurant at the top of the World Trade Center, and to help workers get back on their feet. Very early on after 9/11, workers started to approach us with concerns about very low wages, wage theft, tip theft, sexual harassment. And so we worked on those issues, organizing workers, fighting for their rights for many years. And finally, in 2012, 2013, we had done research that really exposed that the root of a lot of these problems was a legacy of slavery, which is the sub-minimum wage for tipped workers, which is still just $2.13 an hour.
Wow. So given that that this is the remnant of a society that was used for slavery, why do we still have tips at all? And you know, in a dream, what would be the overhaul we'd be working towards?
Yeah. You know, the real reason we are stuck with this system is the money, power, and influence of a trade lobby called the National Restaurant Association. It represents the chains, the IHOPs, the Applebee's. It's always been named one of the top 10 most powerful lobbying groups in Congress. We call it the other NRA. It's incredibly powerful. Most people don't even know about it, but it has been around in various forms since emancipation, basically trying to keep wages for restaurant workers as low as possible and succeeding. We are the nation's second largest and #1 fastest growing private sector workforce, with the absolute bottom of the barrel, lowest paying jobs of any sector in the United States. Wow. So a dream would be just livable wages for this sector, livable, stable wages that recognize these workers as the professionals that they are. If there are going to be tips, let tips always be an extra or a bonus, as they were always intended to be on top of those wages, not ever instead of a professional wage that these workers deserve.
What do you see as the most winnable issue right now that people around the country can be advocating for on a daily basis?
I think this issue is very winnable. When most people hear that workers are still earning $2.13 in America in 2019, they are outraged. They're outraged on a number of levels. One, most Americans agree that nobody should be working full-time and not able to put food on their families' tables. Most Americans agree that a mostly female workforce should not have to essentially sell their bodies to get tips from customers, put up with harassment to get tips from customers. And most customers are outraged to find that the tips that they think are an extra or a bonus are actually used by these multi-million-dollar corporations to subsidize their workers' wages. So we've got bills moving in 16 states and in Congress right now to fully eliminate this sub-minimum wage for tipped workers. 7 states have already done it. It's very possible for more states to do it if we come together and demand that our elected officials listen to us and not the likes of the National Restaurant Association.
You know, one of our projects has been the Tav HaYosher, where we give kosher restaurants an ethical seal for merely doing at the least what the law says, because as we know, many times that they're not even following law. I've met so many workers who are making well below minimum wage and are terrified to speak up. And the Department of Labor is not doing their job, and a lot of times unions aren't in place for a lot of these places. And so, but we've also struggled to see consumers step up to actually shift their consumer habits. So, where do you think the power base is? I mean, what is the base that can actually tilt the scales here?
I mean, we all need to be working together, workers, employers, and consumers, and pushing for policy change. I think the most powerful group to really drive their own change is workers, always will be workers. And consumers can actually play a role in helping workers be able to speak up for themselves. So like you, we created an app called the ROC National Diners Guide that tells consumers which restaurants they should support that are doing the right thing. But also in the app, there are tools that allow you, when you go out to eat, to speak to the server and say, hey, I think you should, I can help you be part of a movement for change. And there's a tool in here called Refer a Worker that allows you to get that worker's information and send it to us so that we can be in touch with that worker. There's also a tool in here that says Refer a Restaurant so that you can tell your favorite restaurant owner, I think you should be part of a movement for change. I love the food here. I love the service, but I'd love to see you be part of a group of restaurant owners that's pushing for a better way of doing business. So I think ultimately workers have to lead the struggle, but consumers can play such a big role in helping workers and employers ultimately push for policy change.
Amazing. Professor Saru Jayaraman, thank you so much for your time and keep up your amazing work.
Thank you. Thanks for your time.
Yes.